Hello there, and welcome to TerraFirmaCraft HardRock version 4. So, when I started playing HardRock 2 weeks ago, I did not know there was a Discord server. And a lot of the early game stuff is not really... There's no hand-holding in TerraFirmaCraft, let's put it this way. So a lot of what we had to figure out was via trial and error and Reddit until we came across the Discord server. That being said, I see there are still quite a bit of questions when it comes to actually getting started in TerraFirmaCraft. So what we've done is quickly loaded into a create world just to run you through some of the basic beginner stuff. So when you start out in HardRock, you will not have access to the knapping system that you are used to from TerraFirmaCraft 3. How it works in 4 is you are stuck with a system called Caveman Knapping, where you take a stone and beat it on another stone and get a tool. Right, so get rid of that. So, two things you're going to need before to start tool making, to put it that way, is you will need some loose rocks and you will need a hardened piece of stone. These can generally be found in areas like this, which is actually great. Hardened stone is usually any sort of stone that is overhanging something. For instance, that would be hardened stone. This could be hardened stone. It's very easily to identify hardened stone from a distance on something like a cliffside where gravity is in play. So if it is overhanging and not falling, therefore it should be hardened. You can find it pretty much anywhere, but the easiest way to actually identify it over a distance is something like that. That is cobblestone, but if you could find a version that is not, that would be hardened stone. So starting out, let's do this. Actually, let's just change this game mode quickly so you can see what's going on. You would take your stone, shift left click, and you would get something from it. It always happens in sequence. 1 being the hammer, 2 being the shovel, 3 being the axe, 4 being the hoe, 5 being the knife, and then the javelin head. I think I just click too quickly and then sometimes I end up skipping steps, but that is the general idea when it comes to caveman knapping. You would start with stone, move on to a hammer. From a hammer you would get a shovel, axe, and then so on and so forth. Then another one that I ran into is actually rope making. A lot of your tools will require rope in some way, shape or form, and the earliest access you have to that is straw. 3 straw gets you a plant string. This is what you then use alongside a stick, the hammerhead, to actually craft your tools. That goes the same for everything but the early game knife for some reason. The knife, let's actually just get one here. That would be hammer, knife. The knife you wrap in plant fibers. And I'm realizing I'm explaining this backwards for some reason. So, just bear with me here. So So that would get you plant fibers. Your knife you make like that. No sticks involved. So to get back to the step that I skipped, to get plant fiber, you simply go up to any grass, right click it, and it will drop plant fiber. Sometimes you get lucky and you can actually harvest multiple plant fibers from a piece of grass. Then you take these plant fibers. Why am I throwing them away? You would take these plant fibers, craft them into, you would need 8 pieces, give us 6. I'm in a creative world. Do you think I would have spawned enough plant string? Apparently not. Alright, no, now you get to see how this works. Anyway, that being said, with a knife you get a lot more plant fiber from a single piece of grass. So always try and use tools. It is always way more effective than trying to do anything manually by hand. Alright, so back to where we were. We need 2 more of those. That then would give you plant string. That, if I can get the grid to balance, gives you plant fabric. Plant fabric in your crafting kit gives you a drying mat. Now, this is where the time-consuming part in all of this comes in. You would have to individually dry plant fiber to get straw, to get to the string making process. You can dry these strings as well, but this takes time and I don't have patience. So a workaround, instead of having to manually cycle every single one of these as soon as they eventually dry out within 4.5 to 5 minutes, is you grab a bunch of plant fiber, turn that into a plant fiber block and place it down. This then has a random tick chance starting from 3 seconds, if I'm not mistaken, to turn into a block of thatch. You then take that block, put it in your crafting grid, and then you have straw. It's not really quicker. Sometimes it does take longer. Most of the times it does take longer than that. But it gives you the ability to kind of forget about it and carry on with your life. In the beginning stages, you will be heavily preoccupied with finding drinkable water. Nowhere in the world are you going to find drinkable water that does not give you negative effects. The only way to get drinkable water is to actually find clay, go through the whole clay knapping process of getting a cooking pot, a vessel, a jug, so on and so forth, to get boiled water. That, I think, we might have actually made more sense to put that in this video than sluicing. Don't ask me why. Don't ask me why I'm doing early stages of tool making and sluicing and not early stages of tool making and clay working. It's because I'm an idiot. Anyway, so that is kind of the beginning stages of tools before you get into the Copper Age. That also covers rope making, well, string making. Rope making in itself is completely different, but you get the idea. It took me 2.5 hours and probably 6 deaths to figure this out on my first playthrough, so I hope that helped. Another big question that is asked is why the sluice isn't actually functioning properly. So one way to set up a sluice, let's just create a water source here quickly. That way, grab this so we can get that done. Alright, so now this would be your source block from the river. You would then need to go 7 blocks from that source block till you see this. From this point, you are going to dig down another 2 blocks. You are going to place down your sluice like so. Break these away so you can see what's going on. Right. Then dig another 2 down from where the sluice ends. That is then where you would put all of your copper dust or whatever you are trying to refine at this point. And that's how the sluice works. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then before I let you go, the last question that I have seen people ask numerous times as to why they can't get any of their, call it, what are we calling it? Never mind. We'll scratch that. Cut that one. Start again. Alright, so, and then, you know how I was talking about clay knapping and pottery? Useless little fact quickly, since I for some reason, I don't know why, I'll say it again, I'm not showing you clay knapping right now. A lot of people have been asking as to why they can't get molten metals out of their vessels without taking damage. You would need, I need to get out of creative mode again. In your crafting grid, you would need 2 sticks and a knife like that. That would give you wooden tongs. You need the wooden tongs in your offhand by pressing F. Then you would be able to pick up your vessel, do whatever you need to without actually taking damage. And I realize you probably have no idea right now what I am talking about, so there will be a part 2. So that's kind of the beginning stages of what you need to know to kind of survive your first day, I think, excluding how to make the only thing that is threatening your life right now being drinking water, which we will cover in the next one. So hope this helped. If it did, catch us live during the week. We'll be doing a FTC playthrough, and as always, have a good one.